What's up, my good friends? As you can see, I am not in my normal filming location, and that was because I got into a car wreck and I'm having to stay with my parents. So we had to move. Move went annoyingly, and then boom, car wreck. Airbag came out and everything, lots of bruises. Let's move on. Don't want to talk about it anymore. So I am here to do the mid-year freak out book tag. I think this is the fourth time I've done it on my channel, so it's always good to do this tag. It's kind of nostalgic. I'll link the video of the very first time I did the tag. That was the first time I think you guys ever saw me with one of my guinea pigs on screen. Oh, loved it. Okay, so the best book I've read in 2024 is Tampa by Elisa Nutting. You're probably thinking, why do you love this book? It's about a teenager who's preying on a little boy, and I I loved it just because the teacher was the perfect predator, and it really showed how these young boys, he was 14, how they can easily be manipulated by beautiful adult females. And what was kind of disturbing about it was just that she was a great teacher. Like, her job was to teach students, and she did it very well. But she was all motivated by her sexual desire for 14-year-old boys. And I understand the vitriol this book gets. I understand if you are not able to make it through. There are very graphic scenes of sexual assault, and it's very difficult to read. But I think it's an important book. And if you or someone you know has been abused by an adult or a teacher, contact Rain.org. Okay, so the best sequel you've read so far. I've read a couple sequels, but I think my favorite is actually one that I haven't read, the original two, and that is Darkness Creeping 2 by Neil Shusterman. It's a little anthology of YA horror stories, and I read that one because I was at Half Price Books and I found it, and it was really, really cute, really fun, really reminded me of those old middle grade books, you know, those haunted house books we all read when we were a child. So, new release you haven't read yet but want to. Oh, and by the way, I'm doing this off the cuff. So, there are a couple. I'm actually gonna say one that I learned about like just now on Erik Karl Anderson's channel called, hold on, let me pull it up here, called The Axeman's Carnival. Now this is about, it's from the point of view of a magpie. And my favorite book has a magpie in it. My favorite book, The Pool of the Stars, it's, the magpie is not a character, he's just like a pet. But one of my other favorite books, Share Me and Mazer Whittlesey, has a pigeon as one of the main point of view characters. And this is an adult book. This is not a book for kids. So it's weird but interesting. So this is about a magpie who gets adopted by a family. That's pretty much all I know about it. But a bird with point of view, that is that's enough to get me. So most anticipated release for the second half of 2024, not totally sure. I'm just gonna say Stormlight number no, I'm not gonna say Stormlight number 5. I'm gonna say the last book in the Shadow of the Gods trilogy, the John Gwynn's Norse Viking fantasy. I'm gonna say that one. I haven't read the first two. They're on my Kindle. They're available on Kindle Unlimited. So when I get around to those, I will at least have the sequel or the final, because I like to binge series, so I can just binge that trilogy very quickly. Biggest disappointment? Probably the first Ghosts. I really did not like that. I read that for Historathon, and it dealt a lot with Mesopotamia and like the Epic of Gilgamesh and all that, and I don't know that much about that. and it just went over my head because I just didn't know enough to really be reading that book. But there was some part about the Bible and like a ghost in the Bible and what that really could have been. So that was the only part, and that was like 85% of the way through the book. So that was a huge disappointment. That book is not for beginners. So the biggest surprise is going to be, let me think quite a little bit about that. The biggest surprise is going to be The Fall by Ryan Cahill. I read the first book. It was halfway decent. And so I read not The Faithful and the Fallen. Whatever, Bound and Broken. I read that. It was halfway decent. Would it be traditionally published in this day and age? No. 10 or 15 years ago, yeah, I thought it would. Then I read The Fall, and it was horrible. And mainly what was wrong was the pacing. And before you start, you're like, oh, it's a novella, of course it's going to be fast-paced. Even short stories have peaks and valleys. That's just writing essential. You need to go give your reader time to more. This was really, really just nonstop shit happening. And you would think if something was that precious that in order to prevent a giant fall, people would protect it a little better. So that was just really stupid. Okay, new favorite author. Have I read much by new authors? I don't really think I have, but I'm gonna go ahead and say Charles Spencer, who's actually Princess Diana's brother. I don't know if he has written something other than The White Ship, or if he is even going to write something other than The White Ship, but I really enjoyed that book. It was about the ship that sank 900 years ago and started a war called the Anarchy. We're not really going to get into that because it's a lot of history, but I was very, very impressed with his writing, so I will choose him. So moving on, is this the last question? Newest fiction, oh, I hate this question. Newest fictional crush. Alright, so knowing that main characters or that characters in novels are fake, it's kind of hard for me to get a crush on them, but I'll go ahead and say the main character, I'm forgetting his name right now, from White Sand by Brandon Sanderson. I really, really hope this guy's of age. If he's not, then forget this. So, what is his name? Taldane? No, that's the planet. I can't remember his name. Kenton, maybe? So, yeah. So, Kenton from White Sand. We'll put him, as long as he's of age. Newest favorite fictional character. Again, this one's kind of hard. I would say the teacher from Tampa, because I love the way a predator was portrayed, but I'm having a little bit of a problem with this because I've read a lot of non-fiction books this year. So I'm looking through the books that I've read right now on my computer, lots of non-fiction. Okay, so I'll go with Amy from Horror Store. As a lot of you guys know, if you've been subscribed to my channel and actually watching my videos for a while, I worked at a furniture, and people always used to tell me I had the worst attitude ever. And so this Horror Store is about a woman who's like 24, 25, 26, around there. She had dropped out of college. Her life was going nowhere. Like, my life wasn't going nowhere, but sometimes I just felt so trapped. So she has a terrible attitude, and this is essentially a haunted house story in an even cheaper version of an IKEA. Now, the store I worked at was cheap, but it was not IKEA level cheap. Alright, book that made you cry. Still haven't cried. There was a part towards the end of Everlost where I kind of just, if maybe I was in a more vulnerable state, I might have cried because it was a good thing. What happened was a good thing, but in the context of the story, it was sad. And it involved a main character that I really, really loved, who can't put him as a fictional crush because he was like 11, but I really, really loved him. So when he completes his arc, I could have seen myself crying if maybe I was like not having a good day that day, but I guess I was because I didn't cry, but I still think about it. So, a book that made you happy. I've been pretty happy this year with books. So, a book that made me happy, I think I'm actually gonna put the last book I read, which was 8033, which I'm gonna post a review on this channel and my new channel, The Dusky Skeptic. Go subscribe. Um, because I used to read this author when I was at the Christian group home, long story, that I lived at as a child, and he actually is a pretty decent author, and yeah, so it was kind of happy to revisit that author and know that he's fairly talented, and that if I go back and read more books by him, which I'm planning to do, hopefully I can buddy read it with someone I know, enjoy it and not be so distracted by just ridiculousness that is usually in Christian books, but not in this one. So, the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. Okay, so as you know, I am displaced at the moment, and I'm just gonna put this one. The book really did not live up to what I recall as a child. Wait till Helen comes. But, oh gosh, you gotta love those old, like, nostalgic, silly childhood book covers. So, while not beautiful, it just makes me smile. And what book do you need to read by the end of the year? The first one that comes to mind is Everfound. It's the end of the Everlost trilogy by Neil Shusterman. I will definitely get to it. It's packed away right now, so I can't read it at the moment. Otherwise, I would have binged the series. So there we go. I believe this is the last question. Yes, it is. So that is it. Fourth time's a charm. And I'll update you guys on my situation. But yeah, I don't have a car right now just because of the wreck, which, yes, was my fault, sadly. Just didn't see the car coming that I ran into because I'm new to the area and I didn't know to be extra careful. So, my fault. Alright, guys. So keep reading, keep writing, keep loving words, subscribe to The Dusty Skeptic, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Amanda here. So I did recall, and I've been actually thinking about this book for a while. Book that I want to read by the end of the year, and also the most beautiful book I've bought is Neon Ghosts. I'll insert a picture if I need to. I did buy this at the very beginning of the year, and it came much earlier than I expected. I thought it was going to come in October. I'm excited to get to that.